We're two sisters who believe that the purpose of life is to enjoy, create, and have fun. We believe that as humans, we can have anything we want, and things are always working out for us. Experience has taught us that the path to getting everything we want begins with ease. If you believe in miracles and happily ever after, or even if you just want to, then this is the podcast for you. Hi there, I'm your host, Kayla Rain.
I'm your co-host, Adria Shea.
And welcome back to Attract It with Ease. Hey, Adria, you're in a new space. How are you doing?
I am. I'm good. Thank you. It's been an adjustment, but I'm good.
Life
Great.
is good. Well, that's good. I'm glad that you're great. And I like that you changed that. That shifted the energy right there. Tell me what you're grateful for today and why.
The first thing I am grateful for is supportive family. And let me say this, I am in a new space, living space, and originally I had some mental stuff associated with that. And I would say it wasn't positive mental stuff. I had these voices in my head telling myself what that meant, the fact that I was moving yet again, and I had assigned a meaning to that was negative. And I was telling someone this, and thankfully, this person said to me, you know what? Why don't you reframe that and just be grateful that you have so much supportive family that you can turn to for help in times like this. And it totally shifted things for me. And I thought, she's right. This is a positive thing, not a negative thing. And so I am grateful that we have that's just one instance or one illustration of the supportive family network that we have, but I'm very, very grateful for our family. So that's my first one.
I love that someone helped you flip that around. It's like what we talked about a couple of weeks ago about how there's a positive and negative end to every stick, and you can choose which end you want to pick up.
Yes.
So you flipped it around. I love it.
Yes. Second one, I'm really grateful for our sister-in-law. I have not known her well over the years, and with the move, I've gotten to know her a little bit better. And we have kind of an unofficial date to go walking once a week while the weather's nice. And I have really grown to appreciate her more than ever. She's kind and she's wise beyond her years. And I think she's a great wife to our brother. So I'm very appreciative of her today.
Oh, Crystal, we love you. Yes. I appreciate you too. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. I haven't expressed gratitude for her in a very long time and probably never to her. So thank you, Crystal, for being a part of our family.
Third one is microwave. And I don't know if I've said that before. I know that whether or not microwaves are safe is debatable. So I'm not even going to get into that. But I have a new goal to drink several cups of herbal tea every day. And I warm the water in the microwave every single time. And so I'm really, really grateful for the microwave in the place that I'm at. It makes it so much easier.
Well, I'm slightly jealous because I don't have a microwave in my tiny house. And so I appreciate what you're saying and how that is so convenient when you do have a microwave. I love it. Well, I have several things that I'm grateful for right now as well. And the first one sounds kind of silly, but it's actually office supplies. I've been thinking about how convenient it is to have tape and scissors and a highlighter. Those are all things that I've used in the last week. And it's frustrating when you can't find one of those things, or if you don't have it, like I ran out of tape and was like, oh no, do I have any more tape anywhere? I need tape. And I thought, it's one of those things that you don't really spend time thinking about, but I'm really grateful for office supplies.
Oh man, I love office supplies too.
Next one is the extra hour of daylight. In the United States, most of the country observes daylight savings, and we just had daylight savings. And in past years, I've always hated the spring daylight saving change because we lose an hour of sleep. We move forward an hour. And this year, I didn't even intentionally try to have a better attitude about it. but I have noticed already how much more daylight I have right now recording. Like normally when we record, I have the curtains closed because it's dark outside and I don't want people walking by to see in. It is bright outside right now. Like there is daylight. I love it. So I'm grateful for the extra hour of daylight from daylight savings. And then the third thing is I had it kind of brought to my awareness in the last maybe week and a half that I have had negative feelings about my free time, meaning I have felt like I never have enough time. I don't have enough time to do the things that I want, or I don't have enough time with Dan, my fiance, or I come home from work and I feel like, oh, by the time I come home and I cook dinner and I do the dishes and I change my clothes and shower at Dan's work or whatever it is, I feel like, oh my gosh, my night's gone and I have no time to myself. Well, I had this awareness that I was doing exactly what we've been talking about on the podcast, which is focusing on the negative. And so I've tried to flip that around recently and focus on being appreciative when I do have free time and focusing on how much free time I actually have. And now that I've reversed it, I realize how much time I do have for things, probably wasted time that I spend on Instagram or watching television or doing whatever. And it is free time. I could be doing anything that I want, and I do what I want during that time. But I have really started appreciating how much free time I have. And I know the more that I appreciate that and focus on it, the more free time I'm going to draw into my life. And so I'm excited about that too.
I love that. I love your perspective.
Thank you. So, Adria, this episode, I can't tell you how excited I am about this week's episode. I know I've kind of alluded to it a little bit, but this is a topic that I feel like is life changing. Literally, not that the law of attraction isn't. I mean, it is. Everything we've talked about is life changing if you apply it. But this is like the topic that listeners have been waiting for. This is what everybody wants to know. This is what everybody wants to talk about. I feel like this episode is our Super Bowl. I feel so pumped up, so hyped. I'm so excited. I have so many things to say. And listeners, you probably already know because you probably saw the title of this episode. But the reason I'm so excited is today, we're going to talk about attracting money.
Very
Adria.
Exciting. Very exciting.
I was just going to ask you, when you think about just the concept of attracting money, tell me what your initial feelings about that phrase, attracting money. What are your feelings about that?
It's a positive phrase to me, which is interesting because, as you know, I have kind of a mixed mindset about money in some areas. But the idea, the phrase attracting money has a positive association for me. It feels exciting. It feels powerful. It feels like I can do anything.
You can, if you have the money. What's stopping you, right?
Yes. And I do love money. I do love money. Now I know.
If you have the money and you have the time, there's nothing stopping you. And we're already focused on attracting more time. So let's talk about attracting money. So there's a lot of different things I want to get into on this conversation today. But the very first thing I'm going to start out with might shock you. And I think listeners may not agree with me initially. And that is that the amount of money that you have or the amount of wealth that you acquire, the amount of your abundance has zero to do with how hard you work. What do you think about that statement?
I am open to that possibility because you and I have had some conversations in this arena before, but I will say it goes against everything I've always believed growing up, which is that the harder you work, the more successful you'll be, the more financially successful.
Yes, that's what life teaches us. That's what the world teaches us. But let me ask you this. Do you know people that work their butts off and maybe even work 2-3 jobs and can barely pay their bills or just live a mediocre life? They're not driving a Porsche. They're not living in a mansion. They're not traveling to countries all across the world. They're just getting by. Do you know people that work super hard and that's their existence?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. And on the flip side, do you know, and maybe not personally, do you know of people who have large sums of wealth and you could almost say that they don't hardly work at all? They just almost don't do anything, or they work very few hours. And it's like, wow, I sure wish I could do that. Do you know of people that
Yes,
have that experience?
absolutely.
So if that's the case, then how is it possible that the statement, the harder you work, the more successful you'll be, or if you want, you know, you have to work hard in order to make money. How is that a accurate statement if we know examples that are completely opposite?
So I guess it's not an accurate statement, but the appealing thing about that statement is, in effect, it's saying everything's in your control. Try harder, you'll be successful.
Well, I'm going to teach you that it is in your control. It's completely in your control, but it has nothing to do with effort and it has nothing to do with action. Zero. Zero to do with action. It has everything to do with your thoughts. So that's the first thing that I want to get across on this episode is that the way that you think about money is the direct relation to how much money you have. So when I say think, this is all of our beliefs. It's the words we say, it's the conversations we have in our head. It is every time that we think, I can't afford that. I don't have that. I wish I made more money. I wish this was different. I wish life was that easy. All of those statements are beliefs and thoughts that we put out into the universe, and we do it all day, every day. And I think even those of us that are working on our thoughts and know that the law of attraction works the way that it does and that we can affect things, I think we don't recognize all of the ways and the times that we do that. And I'll give you a couple of examples. So, just in my life, and as everybody knows, I get to throw Dan under the bus because he's my fiance and that's what comes with this. But we had a conversation just yesterday. Dan drives a Jeep and it's a few years old, and his electric key, the lock and unlock button, has started having issues. So he can lock the Jeep, but he often cannot get it unlocked with the remote. And if he opens it with the key, if he puts the key in the door, it sets off the alarm. And then he can't turn off the alarm because he has an issue with his remote. So he literally sometimes goes to get in his Jeep and he pushes the unlock, nothing happens. He pushes it, nothing happens. He pushes it over and over and over again. And oftentimes it's about 20 times he has to push the button before his Jeep will unlock. So we have been talking about, oh, let's get you a replacement key. But anyone who drives a car with an electric remote or an electric key knows that those are not cheap to replace. So he's finally started looking into it because it becomes so inconvenient. And as he's looking into it, he realizes he's got two options. He can buy a key and have it programmed for his Jeep, meaning outside of Jeep, meaning outside of the dealership, or he can go directly to the dealership and he can buy a key. But anyone who's ever worked with a dealership knows you're going to pay top dollar if you're buying it from the actual manufacturer versus buying it from some no-name brand. So he found replacement keys online, $40. So he needed to find out how to get them programmed. So he called the Jeep dealership and said, hey, if I have a key, can you program it? They said, yes. Well, how much is it to program? Well, it's $40 if you program it with us. And he says, okay. So he says, can you transfer me to the service department? They transfer him. He talks to the service department and they said, well, if you buy the key from us, it's $40. And he says, well, how much is the key then? The key is $250. So he can buy it
Wow.
online for 40 and try and figure out how to get it programmed, but nobody really knows how to program it except the dealership. So he's kind of stuck buying it from the dealership, but it's $250 for the key and then $40 to program it. This is turning into a long story, which I didn't intend, but you can see how quickly he can look at that and be like, oh my gosh, that's way too much money. And it's not a matter of can he afford it? It's not a matter of can he justify it because he needs it. but he has this issue of paying it because it seems ridiculous compared to what he could get it for if he just buys the key outside the dealership. So we had this conversation last night and I said to him, just buy the stupid key, just get it. And he goes, but that's like almost $300. That's ridiculous. That's absurd. And I said, yeah, but imagine when you have this new key, every time you use it, how grateful you're going to be that it unlocks on the first try. Think of that emotion that's going to come into your life. But also on the flip side, when you put out there, that's too much money. It's the same thing that we were talking about with our episode about hanging on to things that we don't need. It's telling the universe, I don't trust you that you will replace this. Meaning if I spend the money, if I spend $40 over here, I'm okay with it. But if I spend $300 over here, I'm not okay with it, even though he needs it, even though he can afford it. And it's kind of like, well, yes, be conscious of how you spend your money. I don't think there's anything wrong with trying to find the best deal. But if the reason for finding the best deal is because you have this issue with how much something costs or whether or not you can afford something, you are in that mindset of lack. And so that's one example where maybe you're already focused on your thoughts. Maybe you're visualizing having lots of money. Maybe you believe you can attract lots of money, but you're not experiencing that in your life. You very well are going through situations day to day where you're justifying why you can't afford something or why you shouldn't buy something. So our thoughts are a direct relation to what we're putting out there and what we're attracting. And if our emotion is, I can't afford it, or that's too much money, then that's our reality. You're telling the universe that you're not in a state of crazy abundance. Let's talk about the difference between where we both are at financially, Adria, right now versus being, say, multimillionaires, people who have just crazy amounts of money. And I say multi because nowadays $1 million isn't even that much. I mean, it is, but not, you could spend $1 million probably in a few weekends if you spend it correctly.
Definitely.
So when I say, multimillionaires, let's talk about the difference in mindset there. What do you think keeps you from being a multimillionaire right now? Is it how hard you're working?
Part of it is the belief that takes a lifetime to accumulate that amount of money unless one has a spectacular gift, maybe as an entertainer. So part of it is a belief system. Probably all of it.
Well, yeah, truthfully, yes. Yes, it is. It's our thoughts. The fact of the matter is, people that have that level of wealth are people that can picture themselves having that level of wealth. And what I mean is, it doesn't seem out of reach to them. It feels like it's attainable, and it obviously is because they have it. But the rest of the world is sitting back and we are just getting by. We're living paycheck to paycheck, or we live an okay life, but we have a lot of debt. We don't see ourselves as millionaires. We don't see ourselves spending large sums of money. And we have thoughts like, here's some examples. You see somebody driving around in a $150,000 vehicle, and what are the chances that you think to yourself, that is just an absurd amount of money to spend on a car? That is the price of a house. Somebody is driving a car that is worth more money than the house that I live in. Those are thoughts that we think. And when we think those thoughts, that keeps the $1 million away from us. Because and I'm not saying 1 million, if we had crazy amounts of money, let's say we had ungodly amounts of money. Let's say we were a billionaire. If you were a billionaire, would you think twice about spending $150,000 on a car? Probably not. You might not want a $150,000 car. You might feel like you want to spend your money in a different way. But if you did desire one, you wouldn't have the emotion of, oh, that's too much money, because it wouldn't be too much money. But from those of us in our current state, in our current existence, we look at people with large sums of wealth and we judge them for how they spend their money, how they choose to spend their money. That is another piece in attracting money is you have to change your beliefs about whether or not you can have it, but also how someone spends their money. It's none of your business. There's no right or wrong way to do it. Someone might spend their money differently than you would choose to, but there's nothing wrong with somebody who has the money spending their money that way. And when we have a negative thought about it, when we have a negative emotion about it, we are keeping that level of income away from ourselves. It's these crazy thoughts that we don't zero in on. When they happen, we don't even recognize that it has a negative effect on us, but we're literally keeping these walls up around us from the money coming to us. A lot of times people feel like the only way that they can have crazy amounts of wealth, like $1 million, is to win the lottery, have a incredible skill, like you said, maybe be a musician or an artist or something and be able to make money with their craft, or get an inheritance or family money somehow. A lot of people feel like those are the only ways in life that you can fall into that. And the truth is that we all have these windfalls of money, like large sums of money, like hanging out there waiting to come to us. And a lot of us are asking for it. A lot of us are like, just bring me the money. I'm ready. I want it. I want it. I'm so ready. I believe it. I visualize it. I can picture the mansion. I can picture the car. I went and test drove the Ferrari. But at the end of the day, if when it comes down to spending $300 on the key that you can afford and you just don't want to spend the money, you are telling the universe, I don't trust you to replace that money. And you keep that wall up and you keep those windfalls from coming to you. What do you think about this so far? Are you relating to anything that I'm saying, Adria?
Yes, definitely relating to some of it. I'm thinking about the times when I've judged people. I'm not a very judgmental person, but I will disclose that I don't judge people for the car they drive, but in the past I have judged people for their houses. I've looked at these huge houses because that's a big thing in Utah to have, if you can afford it, if I can even say that, to have a really big house. And I look at those houses and I think the cost of that house could feed a small nation for
who's to say they're not
months.
feeding a small nation? Like, we don't know what they're doing with their money. We see
That's
one
so
thing and we judge it. The other part of that is some people who do get flashy with their money don't actually have money. So that's a judgment too. A lot of people just have a lot of debt. Doesn't mean that they're wealthy because they have big, nice, expensive things. It just may mean that they have a lot of debt.
Yeah.
So when we're talking money and people really have it, there should be no judgment about how they're spending it. We shouldn't have judgment about anything or anyone anyway. Like, that doesn't benefit us at all. But
Yes,
if we're talking money and we want to change our beliefs about money and we want to change what we have in our experience, we've got to turn off those negative thoughts. All right, let me give you another example. So I talk a lot about this house that we're going to build. And as Dan and I plan it out and we visualize it, we talk about the things that we want to have. And Adria, I mentioned this to you, I think last week, but not on the podcast. So I want to make sure I mention it to our listeners. And that's that I had this realization that as I visualize the house, that I, in my mind, have pictured it within a budget. Meaning if I had no budget, if I were a billionaire, I would put in things like heated floors. And I would have top of the line appliances and top of the line light fixtures. And I would have floor to ceiling windows. And I would have this incredible view. And when I picture the house, or have in the past, I've thought about, we do a lot of product photography for brands, and maybe I could get this company to give us free product if we did pictures, or maybe I could get this brand to give us a discount if we were brand ambassadors for them. Like in my mind, I've been thinking through, almost pre-negotiating these conversations that I'm going to have. And I had this epiphany recently that those are thoughts of lack. It's me telling myself, you can't afford floor to ceiling windows. You can't afford the heated floors. You can't afford top of the line appliances. And it's literally because I've been setting the bar there. I've have the ceiling capped at this is what I can afford. This is what I could finance, instead of just completely opening my mind and saying, heck no. If I had all the money in the world, I would have my dream house. I would have this incredible house. It still would be small. I don't want something big, but it would be stunning. It would be the type of thing everyone would be posting on Instagram as, inspiration, because it would just be that kind of a house. Why in the world am I not visualizing that house? Well, I'll tell you, in the last week or so, I have been. I have shifted that key little thing. But it is those thoughts that keep us in the same level of income through most of our life. We might change jobs, we might get raises, we might get promotions. But for most people, you don't jump from one status level to another. It just doesn't happen. And even generation after generation after generation. Some families, they stay in the same industry and they just kind of keep that same level. But even if they don't, typically, if your parents weren't wealthy, you make about the same that they did. Your kids will make about the same that you do, because that's what's believable. That's what we know. But really, it's about our beliefs. It's about our mindset. So I want to talk about thinking about money. We've talked about visualizing in the past. I think it's extremely important, if you want to attract wealth, to visualize yourself having it in numbers of ways. But one thing that I want to say, I want to go on record saying, when we talk about visualizing money coming into our experience, we need to make sure we're not just visualizing it as a one-time thing. Meaning, don't visualize just winning the lottery and then life is set. Don't visualize you get this big inheritance and then you can afford to buy all of these things. Don't visualize that you will write a book and it will become a best-selling whatever and you make a couple of $1 million. Visualize yourself getting windfalls of money again and again and again and again and again. And those amounts can be varying amounts. They can be millions of dollars every time. They could be a few $1,000s every time. If you got enough windfalls of a few $1,000s over and over and over again, it would amount to millions. It doesn't really matter, but it's that feeling that the money will be replaced. And so that's another key thing, is really thinking about how are you spending your money and how do you feel when you spend your money? It's funny because in the US, most of us are getting stimulus checks from the government. So this round of stimulus checks is $1,400 per individual based on your income. But for the average US adult, that's what we'll be receiving if you haven't already. And so it's really exciting because it's like, oh, it's $1,400. I can do so many things with it. Some people really will spend that on bills, and other people, it's like a free extra check you weren't counting on, you weren't expecting in it. So it's free money. Hey, I get to spend this however I want. Super exciting. But most of us have the mindset that that 1,400 will come and it will go. So a lot of people are thinking about, well, what's the best way to spend the money? Or should I save the money? Or should I, put it towards this or that? All of those thoughts are thoughts of lack. It's that this is a one-time payment. I'm not going to get this again. I better be careful about how I spend it, because we don't believe it's going to be replaced. It's not money that we're used to getting. And so it's kind of like, unless there's another stimulus bill and a fourth stimulus payment, we don't expect that this money is going to be replaced. And so the way that we think about how we're spending that money definitely will play into how much more money we receive. But There are so many ways that we can receive unexpected sums of money. And if you think about it in $500 here and $1,000 there, and maybe you do get some crazy book deal and you make millions of dollars, who knows? But if you're just if you focus on when you're visualizing, if you focus on the money flowing to you and through you and to you and through you and to you and through you, it's not just the receiving of the money. Because if you feel like that's all you're going to get, then you're going to be scared to spend it. And you're going to still have this feeling of lack of, oh, I don't know if I can afford that. Even if you're talking about the $150,000 car. Well, if I buy a $150,000 car and I only started with $1 million, I might not be able to afford the dream house that I want also. No, just know that if you made that million, if it came to you, you can attract another million and another million and another million. Like, it's going to keep coming if you believe that it's going to keep coming. So in that sense, another example from my life is that I have found that so many times, and this relates kind of back to the situation with the key, so many times in my life, I have decided not to buy the thing I really want, and I've settled for something lesser because it costs less money. So it could be a pair of jeans. Right now, I am obsessed with True Religion jeans. And if you know anything about True Religion, they start at about $100 and they go up from there. So it's really easy to say, oh my gosh, who would spend $100 on a pair of jeans? Well, hello, me. I would. And I will tell you, since December, I have now bought 4 pairs. Not because I'm a millionaire, but because I have changed my idea about how I spend money. Because every time I look at a pair of jeans that's $100 and I tell myself, oh, that's ridiculous. I can't justify that. I can buy Express jeans, or I can buy jeans at Walmart, or I can get American Eagle on sale for $34 or whatever. There's nothing wrong with those jeans. And if that's what you want, then by all means buy them. But in my mind, if I can afford it, meaning I don't have to put it on a credit card, I don't have to go in debt for it, it's not taking away from my bills. If I have the money in my bank account and I want it, by all means, I should buy the thing that I want. Because number one, I'm going to appreciate it more. So I'm going to be putting that feeling of appreciation out into the universe every time I wear it, every time someone compliments me on it. I'm going to feel good. But secondly, I'm going to know that I didn't settle. So there's that piece of feeling like, you know what? No, I have the nicest of nice. I got the thing that I wanted. And then the third most important piece of it is I'm telling the universe, I'm not afraid to spend this money because I know as quickly as I can spend it, it will be returned to me. I know you will replace it. So Dan, for quite some time, has been wanting a new camera bag. And there are a lot of backpacks that are made specifically for professional photographers, designed to carry your camera and your lenses. There are a lot of companies out there that make them. He's looked at several, he's owned a few, and he's really struggled finding one that he absolutely loves. So every time he buys one, he instantly starts looking at others, because when he gets it in his hands, because it's usually purchased online, he realizes it's not exactly what he wanted. Well, there is a professional photographer named Peter McKinnon that we love, who designed a backpack a little over a year ago and released it. And the backpack without the accessories on the inside, the backpack just itself, is $400. So Dan's been talking about this backpack for over a year, since before it was released, because I think it started on Kickstarter. And so people were talking about it. And he kept telling me, oh, I wish I could justify this backpack. I wish, $400 is just crazy, because most of the other brands out there are around $100 to $150. Still expensive for a backpack, but he's been talking about it for over a year. Well, he got a bonus several months back, and he told me he thought he was going to get a backpack. And I said, well, you should get the Peter McKinnon backpack. And he said, yeah, I thought about it, but I don't know. It's just so much money. And he went back and forth and back and forth. And I finally told him, I said, look, if you can't afford it now, you never can. You just got a bonus. You have the money. You have plenty of money. You should get the backpack that you want, instead of once again buying one you don't want that you're just going to want to turn around and replace. He finally listened to me. He did buy the backpack. He absolutely loves it. He
Oh,
totally
good.
loves it. But that happened a few months back. And I did ask him in the last week, I said, have you had any regrets in buying that backpack? And he said, no, absolutely not. I love it. And I said, do you feel like it was worth the money? He said, yes. And I said, have you felt like you should not have spent the money? Or have you been glad you did because the universe has replaced the money? And he laughed and he said, no, it's definitely been replaced. I have not stressed about money. And it's funny how just making that decision of letting go and not feeling like, oh, but if I spend this, then I don't have it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of feeling like I don't know if I can justify it, I don't know if I should, he just decided, you know what, I'm going to. It's what I want. It's what I deserve. I got a bonus. I should spend it on what I want. And he's never looked back. And it's funny to me how just crossing that fence and making the decision that no, it's okay. It's okay to buy nice things. It's okay to justify it because the universe will replace it. And these are the thoughts that we have day in and day out about money that keeps money from us. Adria, give me an example of something that you have thought about in the last, we'll give it 6 months. And I don't care what amount of money it is, but something that you've wanted that you probably could have bought, but you talked yourself out of because you felt like it was either too much money or you couldn't justify the money.
I've been thinking about it while you've been talking.
And
there's an at-home beauty device that I want that I've been thinking about for a while. And I keep thinking, should I spend the money on it? And there are so many reasons why I should. I mean, I could list a whole litany of reasons why it makes financial sense to buy it, not to mention the fact that I really want it and I think about it all the time. And yet I haven't bought it yet. I've held myself back from buying it.
well, you're creating resistance for yourself every time you convince yourself not to do it. And again, I want to make sure listeners understand I am not encouraging you to go into debt. I am not encouraging you to put things on your credit card. I'm not encouraging you to spend the money for your car payment or your rent or your house payment or whatever on True Religion jeans. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is if you've got the money and you're sitting on it, or you're going to buy something anyway and you're settling when you could afford the nice thing, you're just talking yourself out of it. You are actually putting that wall up and keeping large sums of money from you. That is your mindset that you cannot replace that money or you cannot easily replace that money. And you're putting that out to the universe. And so that is your experience. So Adria, I would recommend as soon as, and maybe it's today, and maybe it's when you get your stimulus check, I don't know. But as soon as you have that money in your bank account and it is not allocated towards bills, I encourage you to buy that beauty item.
You know, it's interesting you say that because the only reason I haven't bought it is I've had this thought like, what if I spend the money and then something comes up and I think, oh, I wish I had, money that I spent on that laser. So as we're talking, I'm like, because I mean, I have the money in the bank right now. So
get it.
So I'm like, can we finish recording the podcast? Because I think I'm going to get it.
So folks, Adria's taking off so she can get online and buy this item.
That's right.
I'm really excited for you. And here's what I want. And you don't have to give us an update on the podcast because we'll probably forget, but I do want you to give me an update in like offline, off air. Sometime down the road, I'm going to ask you, did you regret spending the money on that thing? And I know for certain you're going to tell me no, because the universe will replace that money. As soon as you decide that the universe will continue to bring you money, the universe will continue to bring you money. The only thing that stops that is the resistance that we create through our thoughts. So it is our thoughts that determines how much money we have or how much money we don't have. Okay, I have a couple other things I want to chat about here before we wrap this conversation up. We've said this before. I'm going to say it again. But the story that we tell is what determines what we will receive going forward. And what I mean by that is we need to stop talking about the way that life is. or what our experience has been. I don't care if you've struggled with money in the past. I don't care if you struggle with money today. I don't care what your situation is. If you want the situation to change, you've got to change the story. You've got to change how you're telling it. And some people will argue with that and say, but Kayla, that's not true. If I say that I have money when I don't have money, I'm lying. Well, first of all, I want to say, so what? What's the harm in that? Secondly, I want to say that doesn't have to be how you say it. You can choose how you want to tell your story. And the story can be, well, in my past, I've always struggled with money, but starting today, my life is changing. How is that a lie? And the more you say that, the more you'll start believing that. And the more that will be your truth, number one. But the story doesn't have to be, oh, I'm a millionaire if you're not a millionaire, because you don't believe that, number one. And number two, yeah, that's a lie. And if you don't feel good saying that, then don't say it. But choose a story that you can buy into that tells the direction that you want your life to be going. Say things like, money flows to me. Money comes easily and effortlessly. It doesn't matter how hard I work. It doesn't matter how little I work. I can have large sums of money. Large sums of money is my birthright. Abundance is my birthright. There is no difference between you and the NBA basketball star making millions, aside from the fact that he can play basketball. Guess what? You have skills he doesn't. And it doesn't even have to come through skills. You can attract it in crazy, crazy ways. We've talked about things falling out of the sky. And as soon as you start that snowball effect, this is one thing Esther Hicks says that I love. I'm totally stealing it from her, but she says the better it gets, the better it gets. And what that means is as soon as it starts getting good and you recognize it and you focus on it, you're attracting more and you're attracting more and you're attracting more. As soon as you acknowledge it and you focus on it, you attract more and you attract more and you attract more. So the better it gets, the better it gets. I love that. I love that concept. So change your story, change what you're saying, change what you're thinking, buy the thing. Stop trying to talk yourself out of it. Stop setting the limits on what you can have, like I've been doing with my dream house. My dream house is now going to have heated floors. I'm so excited about that. It is going to be incredible, and it's on its way to me right now. Okay, I also want to say that if you make it your intention every single day to improve the story that you're telling, if every day you set the intention, I'm going to tell a different story, I'm going to tell a better story of how my life is going or what the abundance is like or how much money I have, if every day that's your focus, your story will become your story. It will become your truth. It will turn into your reality. That is law. That is the law of attraction. It says what is put out into the universe is met with its match. The only way that it will not come back to you, the only way that that will not be your reality is if you create the resistance. And the resistance is the negative thoughts. So this leads me into the next piece. And we've talked about this on prior episodes. But when we say negative thoughts, it's not just negative thoughts about money. Your emotion about anything, any topic at any given time is what you're vibrating. So if you feel amazing about money and you believe the universe is going to bring it to you, but you're sitting around complaining about your mother-in-law, or if you're sitting around complaining about how you don't have enough free time, or if you're sitting around and you're complaining about how you have to go to some event that you don't want to go to, you are vibrating at that complaining rate, and the money cannot come to you. It cannot flow to you if you do not meet the match. And the match is you've got to vibrate at that level. You've got to vibrate at the level that you're asking for. If you're asking for millions of dollars, you have to vibrate at the level of millions of dollars. Adria, what do you think it feels like to vibrate at the level of millions of dollars?
Freaking amazing.
You think about it. If you had millions of dollars, like let's say you just got it. It just like you just got it today. You just were told, congratulations, you won $5 million. How would you be feeling and what vibration would you be putting out into the universe? Like it would be crazy positive, crazy happy, crazy strong. You'd be full of joy. I'm not saying you have to live in that high intensity state, but you have got to match several million dollars with your vibration if you're going to attract several million dollars. And I'm not saying that we expect you to stay in this high peak state constantly. We know there's going to be ebbs and flows, but it's recognizing the things that you're doing in your life, the times that you're complaining, the things that you're limiting your beliefs about, and flipping those and turning them and turning the switch and turning it around and raising your vibration and working on being happy. The very best thing that you can do to attract money is to be happy. If you can be aligned with your inner being wants you to have everything that you're asking for. And once you ask for it, once you create that desire, and you create the desire every single time you experience something you don't want, you create a desire of what you do want. Even if you don't attach words to it, you vibrate at, no, I want this instead. You put that desire out into the universe, and the universe goes to work to match it and bring it back to you. But you have to stay in vibrational alignment of that thing. So the best thing that you can do is be happy and focus on your gratitude. Okay, I think I hit all of the key points. There's one last thing, Adria, that I want to talk about, and it actually is our action item, because this is huge, huge. This is going to be life-changing. And listeners, I hope that you have not tuned out yet, because this is powerful. I promise you, this will change your life. So once again, I got this from Esther Hicks. She has a book called Money and the Law of Attraction. And this is a recommendation that she has in her book. I'm going to share it with our listeners. So this is our action item for this week. I want you to carry in your pocket $100 bill. Now, if you can't afford $100 bill, then I want you to put whatever dollar bill you can afford in your pocket. If it's a $50 bill, if it's a $20 bill, if it's a $5 bill, I don't care. I want you to use a $100 bill if you can justify putting a $100 bill in your pocket. Get a $100 bill, put it in your pocket, and I want you to walk around for at minimum one day. Think about all day that $100 in your pocket. And every time you think about it, every time you see something, whether it's driving down the street and you pass McDonald's and you think to yourself, oh, I could go get breakfast. Breakfast sounds nice. I want you to have the thought, I could afford that. I could buy that. I could get breakfast if I want. As you drive past Starbucks, I want you to think to yourself, I could afford a coffee today if I wanted. I can justify a coffee. I can afford that. I could buy that. I'm not telling you to go get the McDonald's or the Starbucks. I'm telling you, keep that $100 in your pocket. And every time you pass by something where you could spend that $100, I want you to think to yourself that you could spend that $100. You could afford it. You could justify it. Every time you look at your phone and you get an ad for something, whether it's something or not, something you want or not, you're scrolling Instagram and somebody shows you this new bra, this incredible new bra. I want you to look at that, knowing you have $100 sitting in your pocket, and think, I could afford that. I could buy that. When you get an ad in your email for, I have no idea what kind of ads people get in their emails, but for me, it's typically clothes. So we'll say shoes. When someone sends you an ad for a new pair of shoes, I want you to look at that email and think to yourself, I could afford that. I could buy that. You're going to do this all day throughout one single day. You're not spending the $100. You're thinking about spending the $100. And here's the power in it. If you can do that 1,000 times in one day, and it doesn't have to be 1,000 times, but let's say you have 1,000 opportunities in your day to think, I could buy that, and I could buy that, and I could buy that, and I could buy that. You mentally have spent $100,000 in one day. And when you put your mindset into spending $100,000 with zero attachment, there's no fear in thinking, oh, I could afford to go to McDonald's and get breakfast. You're not thinking about, oh, but if I did, I might not be able to afford that this weekend. Or I don't know if that's such a good idea because, I just went out to dinner last night and I really shouldn't get breakfast this morning. Those are the thoughts that we tend to have when those ideas come into our head. Oh, I don't know if I should get a Starbucks. It's $5. That's a lot. I can just get free coffee when I get to work. We have a coffee maker. No, those are limiting thoughts that we have. But if you can get in the habit of spending $100,000, and so if you don't do it in a day, keep that $100 in your pocket. Do it over and over again. Because I promise you, the more times that you spend $100 mentally, you are telling the universe, I can spend large sums of money. I have no problem with it. I don't have any emotional attachment to it. I'm not worried about whether it will be replaced. It is this trick that will instantly change your ability to manifest large sums of money because you will be vibrating at a fun, high state, thinking about all these things you could buy and having zero stress about whether or not you can afford it. That is our action item. I cannot wait for listeners to do this. I know it will be life-changing. It will change things instantly for you if you stay happy and positive. Stop complaining, focus on the good, visualize yourself with large sums of money, change your verbiage about what you can afford, what you can justify, stop judging other people about how they spend their money, and just have fun with it and treat yourself. Set the bar higher. Tell yourself you can buy the True Religion jeans. It's okay. It's okay. If you are not going into debt, it is okay. And trust that the universe will replace that money. Adria, do you have any final thoughts for this episode?
No, I'm just super excited. I love the action item that you've given. And
are you going to do it?
I am. Yes, I am going to do it.
I'm excited. I'm going to do it too. I'm so excited. I will tell you, I've been doing it for the last several days, not physically, because often my clothes don't have pockets. I do have a purse, so I could put it in my purse. But I literally have been trying to tell myself that every time I see an ad for anything and every time I pass a restaurant or a store, I think to myself, I could buy that. And it's actually been fun. And I will tell you, just today, I have spent quite a bit of money on a new pair of shoes, a couple new clothes things, some new lotion, some things that I really wanted to buy because I thought, you know what, if I'm going to talk about this today, I need to live it and I need to let the universe know I am not afraid to spend this money because it will be replaced. And so it's been really fun to go through that experience of treating myself as well.
Yeah, that's exciting.
So that leads me to our winner for this week. And Adria, I have a feeling you're going to know this person, but we have a new review from Podchaser, and it was left by Lily White.
Oh, I think I do know who that is.
So Lily White left us such a sweet review. And so Lily, send us an email at attractitwithease.com. Hello at attractitwithease.com. Send us an email with your theme word for the year, as well as your address, and we will make you your custom theme bracelet. Thank you for your glowing review. Adria, will you tell our listeners what this whole winner bracelet thing I'm talking about is?
Yes. Every week, we will draw a name from those people who have submitted a review of the podcast on various platforms. And the winner will receive a custom bracelet with their theme word of the year.
That's right. And if you don't know what we're talking about with theme word of the year, go back and download episode 1. Listen to that. We talk about your theme word. And also, if you have not listened to the first 10 episodes, you're going to want to check those out because that's our Jumpstart module. They're designed to go together to help you jumpstart all of the things that you desire. And we have a free workbook you can download on our website. Again, our website is attractitwithease.com. It's been fun. I love this topic. I would love feedback from our listeners. Send us an email. Let us know how things are going. But Adria, I enjoyed chatting with you this evening. I look forward to talking next week.
It was great as always. Thank you for the inspiration.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.